Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome back. It's Wednesday. We're back in the studio together live talking about a sweet, sweet movie. This one is Split, the second film in the sick, unbreakable trilogy. We can't wait to talk about it. We'll see you guys in just 1 second.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Action Movie Anatomy.
There it was. There it is. Should I be singing? I feel like that's my thing now.
This is Hedwig's favorite song.
Aha.
It's too bad Hedwig had to go Kanye instead of Dr. Dre.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
It would have been a very, very They'd be like, how did you find this CD?
Some old school. Some old school. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome back. Welcome. We're both back in the studio together again. You know, it's strange these days. When we get back together in the studio, it's like every 4 weeks something happens now where one of us can't be here.
Right, and it feels like, even though it's usually only 1 week off, it feels like it's 4 weeks off.
Yeah.
Even though it's just,
yeah.
I don't know what it is, just the show without the other one just doesn't feel the same. Even though Roxy was phenomenal, as she always is.
Great guest.
Yeah, she was really great last week.
Pro. I don't know why it's so weird. I think it's because we've done it for so many years, this show, that when it's a week off, it's like feels like we've missed something.
For sure.
But these days with Action Industries, it's 24/7. We're a 24-hour news cycle now. So, guys, this is Action Movie Anatomy on the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network dedicated to talking movies, all things movie-related, and pop culture by the bucketful. We're talking about Split today, directed by M. Night Shyamalan?
Shyamalan.
Have you ever known how to properly say it, really, honestly?
No, but I know how to spell it now. Like, after having to write it so many times yesterday, I know it's Shyamalan.
Oh,
hey, Marissa.
Hey, Marissa's here.
Yeah, Shyamalan.
It is Shyamalan.
Shyamalan. Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Did you see Split in theaters? When did you watch Split? Are you a fan?
I did see Split in theaters. I'm not a horror person, but, you know, I really liked the concept of the different personalities and trying to figure out which is the villain and which is the good guy, even though they're stuck in the same person.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really good character type of study.
It's really interesting that you say scary movies, because we talked a little bit on the phone yesterday, and I was saying, going back and watching this movie, I wasn't really ever scared, and I wasn't really ever like that on edge on rewatch. But I remember in like the first watch, I was like, oh, Jesus, you know? How did you feel watching it again?
It's really good.
You also just watched Us, which is like very scary and creepy.
I screened it last night. It was fantastic. Yeah. I recommend it. Totally different, though. This is like, the interesting thing is, like, M. Night Shyamalan doesn't make horror movies. He makes thrillers. He makes, like, when people say the genre of horror thriller, his movies are truly, like, one of the few types that actually exist in that genre, because like they have like an element of horror, but they're really thrillers more than they're horror movies, but they're not thrilling enough. They're not like page turner, like John Grisham novels where they're like thrillers. So like they have this weird tone, but like this movie, for instance, on rewatch, the thing that I paid the most attention to is like, it's the most interesting thing is just to watch McAvoy in each scene, in each moment, to watch. And even when he's not talking, like I was realizing when he first gets in the car, when he abducts the girls and he sits down and he starts taking the things off the dashboard.
Yeah, he's cleaning it, and I love it. He's so methodical, and just watching him exist, and Anna Taylor-Joy, they're both like mesmerizing.
Really good in this movie.
She's very good, and she's like, mesmerizing is the word I like to use the most, because a lot of the time, you know, we had the conversation of like, well, what would you do, man? Like, if you were in her position, would you be her or would you be them? And it's really tough, because like, if movies have taught us anything, you should be her. But if human nature and human instincts have taught you anything, you'll most likely be them, and the other two girls, and get eaten. You're gonna get eaten. I don't want that.
It's an interesting movie. Definitely not a horror movie all the way, but has some horror elements. I mean, there's cannibalism. So
yeah. I mean, that is always weird. That was another one of my things I wanted to bring up when you were talking. Is just I hate how sci-fi and fantasy and horror and thriller have been married. They're just not things.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's like now that film has evolved so much,
right?
It is a complete disservice to each genre to marry them.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So guys, number of things to talk about today on Action Movie Anatomy, the show where we talk about action movies. The first one is a Patreon shout out. A couple things. We wanted to give a shout out to Sari
Lemon Maki.
And The Prince That Wasn't Promised. A big shout out to The Prince That Wasn't Promised, who donated in our chat roll, live chat, which you can do now on YouTube.
Is it called Super Chat?
Super Chat, I think so, and a generous donation last week. And we wanted to let everybody know here because it's brand new. It's the first time it's ever happened. They just introduced this like a month ago. So
we don't know what's going on half the time. I saw it, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Thank God Roxy was on the show. She was like, oh, that's a thing that's been announced, and it happens when people like you.
I feel old so often.
I do too.
But
how do if I click on it, do I get money?
I was like I've been learning to use a PC, and I just like almost threw it out the window yesterday. Like, this doesn't work. But a big shout out there. And so just so everybody kind of knows what's going on here.
Oh, yeah.
The Super Chat is the best possible way that you guys can support the studio. That is everything on Popcorn Talk Network, every dollar that comes in through advertising. It's all to keep this place running. We're in this amazing building, this incredible studio that was built a couple years ago.
We've been in these between the two studios, we've been taken care of by this incredible network for about 4 years now. So again, the Super Chat donations, the Prince that wasn't promised donated last week. Every single cent from that goes directly to Popcorn Talk, which we cannot encourage enough. We really, really appreciate what they've done for us. As for our support,
we have a Patreon. So patreon.com/Team Action is where you guys can support us. We have a bunch of different cool levels there. There's going to be some really fun stuff we're announcing. Great growth and interaction this month on the Patreon. We have this amazing team of people on Action Industries. I've shouted them out before, but just once again, you guys are just absolutely friggin' crushing it. And it's been so much fun to see. There's news hits on the Instagram. So follow along there, guys. Patreon.com/Team Action. You can find me personally at Ben Bateman Media.
You guys can find me at Andrew Guy. And please go and find us at Team Action Show, Action Industries on YouTube, everything there. It literally is always updated. News stories every single day, clips from the shows. It is the place to be if you want to see what we're doing.
So today we are going to be talking about Split. This is the second film in the Eastrail
177.
Nice pull.
Nice.
I
bet you wish you knew that.
Nope. And it's the second film in that trilogy. We had Spencer Treat Clark on for Unbreakable just a few weeks ago, or a month ago, or something like that. So coming up today on the show, we're going to be answering your AMA questions. We are going to be talking about some of the top director comebacks of all time, because I think we can both agree this is a major director comeback.
Oh, 100%.
As well as going through all of our other fun games on the show. Am I missing anything super exciting and important before we just get into the show?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we are going to be doing a fun recast. I know it is inspired by our AMA question, but it's just something for you guys to think about in the chat, all the live viewers, just someone who you think, male and or female, who could pull off this incredible acting feat that James McAvoy did. I know Ben and I have our choices, so we'll get into that much later in the show.
Yeah. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're getting a thesis statement. This is your biggest, boldest thought about the film. You watch a movie, you think something, you want to share it with someone at a party. This should be really rooted in hyperbole. The best this, the only this, the most this. We try to stay away from loose stuff that's just sort of like I like or dislike something.
Yeah.
So do you want to jump in first with yours?
I actually want you to go first because I don't want to steal it. Also, I started watching Triple Frontier on Netflix.
Is it sweet?
It's pretty sweet.
I haven't watched it yet.
Ben Affleck looks like he's 50.
I hear he's like...
He looks like...
I hear he's like beer gut a little bit.
Yeah.
He's grizzled.
Oscar Isaac just killing people. It's sweet.
Yeah.
Oscar
Anyway. Isaac's really talented.
He really is.
He's really good.
I think he has an incredibly fortunate trajectory in his career. If I could pick an actor who I might maybe shape my own career after, I might follow in his footsteps.
Yeah. You guys look kind of similar,
I've
actually.
heard that. What's your thesis?
After watching this film for a second time, I can confidently say James McAvoy is the most underrated working actor in Hollywood today.
God damn it. That was literally like almost exactly what mine was. And Brett Jones wrote that in the chat.
Yeah. Cool.
It feels...
You guys are good ripoff artists.
Damn it, I should have went first. Yeah, please elaborate, because I think there's a lot of people that can share that feeling.
I think, so, I went to acting school when I was 17. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for a year, and I had a few years where I was doing that. That's not what I do anymore. It's not what I want to do anymore. But I did enough of that stuff, like formal training, and I obviously watch enough stuff that I really do understand how this stuff works and how actors' processes and things like that. I'm also fascinated by actor stories, is why I interview them. So when you watch him play this character, you notice all the small things, and it's way harder to make as many performances distinctive as he does than it is like you can change your voice and you can like be like, this character does this and this character does this.
Right.
Anyone could do that. Jerry Butler could do that. Like I could do that, but it's not the same thing as distinctively changing the way that a character's mouth moves when they talk or the way they hold tension in their shoulders.
It's incredible the range that he goes through, and you got to think of the work that he puts into completely embody every character is exactly what I think is what you're speaking on. Is it's about the intonation, the rhythm, the tone, the posture. Every single thing changes from character to character, and that's why when we as we get farther along to the show, one of my favorite moments in the show is when you finally see that moment of like the 7 repressed characters all coming out who have been hidden in the darkness. And you're like, holy shit, these are so defined.
It's so cool that like I love like there's certain moments like when he's Kevin Wendell Crumb and then he changes into the characters at the end.
Yeah.
And he becomes Miss Patricia for a second and he closes the sweater.
Right.
Like it's like a weird thing, and I wonder how much of that stuff. I have to wonder how much of that stuff was McAvoy making choices that they decided to include. I would have to imagine most of it probably is, because I don't think you could write that many things.
Right.
Right. Like, and the other thing that's crazy about this, and this is, I was trying to come up with a way to put this into a thesis, but like, M. Night wrote this movie as he knew this was a sort of sequel to Unbreakable, but it didn't have to be. But the concept of this movie is a concept that like your like failed writing buddy could pitch you and be like, hey, I have this cool idea.
Right.
This guy has all these personalities and he kidnaps these girls and there's the beast, and like you might like read the script and be like, this is kind of cool, but it's kind of stupid and I don't think this will ever get made. This doesn't make any sense. How's he climbing on walls? Like, what is this? It only works because he's a talented director and he has enough of a name to get this movie made. And then, of course, we're willing to watch it. But that's the case with so many scripts. Is like, there's a lot of great writing. There's a lot of medium ideas that are executed really, really well. And that's kind of what this movie is to me.
Yeah.
It's not that good of an idea. It's like an incredibly ambitious idea that done in the wrong hands would be absolutely unwatchable.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you had a person that was really bad at overacting it, if you had a girl that was like an overactress, like all of the things, even if the set design didn't feel as authentic as it did, like, yeah, it would have been so easy to screw this movie up.
This movie could have been a very bad M. Night Shyamalan
horrible
movie. He had
movie.
so many in a row that were like very subpar. This movie easily could have been one of those movies, and it wasn't. And I'm not sure if that's just McAvoy just made this movie that good.
It's kind of hard to think that it isn't, right?
Yeah,
because like the things that make M. Night Shyamalan movies so interesting are, these weird, interesting character quirks throughout, and then of course the twist.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, I think a lot of it was just created by McAvoy, and there really isn't a twist in this.
Yeah.
you know?
So what's your thesis?
So my thesis is that this is the role, this film, Kevin Wendell Crumb is the moment in James McAvoy's career where people are going to start taking him as a serious actor, start looking at him as a serious actor, which is shocking because he's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, he broke out really in America, I think, in 2007 with Atonement, I want to say, is the one that I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Like that, and then Wanted was like the next year.
It was, let's see, Behind the Lines, I didn't really know those. The Pool, whatever, White Teeth, Foyle's War, Bollywood Queen. Wait, who am I looking at?
McAvoy?
This is McAvoy. I was like,
I think it's Atonement is the big, like, that's like the movie that he's like a star and it was a big movie.
Okay, so he was in TV series State of Play, 6 episodes of 2003.
Okay.
Then he popped up in Wimbledon in 2004.
Yep.
And then he was in Mr. Tumnus. You don't know what that is?
Narnia.
Dang it, Marissa! I've got to play him on Saturday.
Mr. Tumnus.
Yeah, that's what it was. So I remember he pops up as like the what is it called? They're like half man, half goat.
Satyr?
Yeah, he's
Satyr.
the fawn.
The fawn. That's what I knew. It wasn't Satyr. I knew it was something else.
I was trying to incept you.
Yeah, so that's where he popped up. Then he was in The Last King of Scotland.
Oh yes, right. That's the one. It's not Atonement. It's
And then
Last
it was
King.
Becoming Jane, Atonement, Wanted. And that's when he really started to take off. Romeo and Juliet, X-Men First Class. But then you look at the movies that he's done in the last decade. And other than
Victor Frankenstein
and Trance, he's kind of just hasn't done what you'd think he would do for being as large as he is, as popular as he was. A huge heartthrob for a while too.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very interesting. And so since then he's done, Sherlock Gnomes, Atomic Blonde. He popped up in Deadpool as Charles Xavier, and it's really just been this X-Men train. The next thing he has coming up is It Chapter 2. Which could,
he's one of the grown-up kids.
Yes, which I think could maybe be a moment to finally start to like it's so weird to say laying the groundwork for the rest of his career, even though he's already been working for almost 20 years.
It's so weird.
15 years.
That
whatever.
it's so weird that he's as talented as he is, and we acknowledge that he's talented, but it's also weird that he's not. Where's the James McAvoy 2-year run of 4 movies and 2 of them are nominated for Best Picture?
Yeah.
And he gets an Oscar nom and all that. Why hasn't that happened? It feels like it should be happening right now. Maybe it still will happen, but that's when I say underrated, that's kind of what I mean. Is I don't think that he's any less talented than a Gyllenhaal or one of these other guys that
not at all
could just that's kind of happened to. What are the best James McAvoy movies? What are the best ones?
Split,
Atonement, and First Class, I guess.
Yeah, First Class.
First Class is pretty
It's
good.
good, but it's mainly because of
super
Fassbender.
boring. This movie's way above average.
Yeah.
None of those movies are amazing.
A lot of people were saying Filth is really good, or that he has at least a terrific performance in Filth.
Huh.
And then obviously The Last King of Scotland is a good movie, but that's mainly because of Forrest, I would assume.
Yeah, and it's also that's one of those movies that has an Oscar performance in it, but the movie's not that good.
Yeah.
I just watched Crazy Heart. The movie was good. Crazy Heart was really good.
But Bridges is amazing.
He's really good.
Yeah.
That's why that movie is anyone who knows what it is because Jeff Bridges won an Oscar. It's the same reason that anybody knows what The Last King of Scotland is. Nobody would ever have heard of that movie if it wasn't for him winning that Oscar.
Right. You think Gyllenhaal could pull all this off? After watching Nightcrawler?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
He has the range. He'd be amazing.
Yeah. So those are our thesis statements, guys. I know that there were a bunch in the chat. A lot of them kind of on the lines of what we were talking about, but make sure to throw these in there. Love the conversation. We got about 40 people in the chat right now.
Nice. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
So, yeah, guys, let's keep on moving through the show. The next bit we're going to do is fist pump moment. This is where something happens. You kind of look around. You're like, are you seeing this right now? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm so excited. I get to watch the rest of this movie. You pump your fist. I just said I'm so excited I get to watch the rest of this movie. I did it so guttural. It sounded like I was just taking a dump, actually. Our clip from Action Guys this last week that opened the show, I forgot that it happened.
I did too.
And then I watched the clip.
It's very funny.
And it made me laugh. I was kind of embarrassed when I did it. And then it was just like one of those comedy gold things.
Yeah, it's just what, and also even my face, I'm kind of like, what the hell?
You go, what? I sang it. Why? I don't know. I was trying something.
Those clips have been amazing.
That's a show we have, by the way.
Yeah, that is a show we have.
It's called The Action Guys. We do it every single week on the Collider Podcast Network. We put it up on the Movie Talk feed. It's 40-ish minutes long. It's another movie show. It's inspired by conversations we have on this show, but it's a little bit more general. It's less one movie specific. And the coolest thing is we have a YouTube channel, Action Industries, where you can actually find full video episodes of that show. They've given us the footage, so it's ours.
Yeah.
And because they feature the full audio feed and then some of their favorite clips they feature on their Collider Podcast YouTube network, but we actually get to host the full show. So if you want to just go watch them on YouTube like this, go subscribe to the Action Industries YouTube and check out that show because we have a ton of sweet episodes.
Yeah, it's super cool that they allowed us to take that onto our channel. Action Industries on YouTube, Action Industries on Instagram. Someone just wrote, I believe, what your fist pump was in the chat. So I want you to go first again.
Okay, there's a lot of fist pumps in this movie, and I think there's just a lot. Most of them are McAvoy. But my fist pump moment, because it's so weird, is the dancing from Hedwig.
Yes!
The Kanye dancing. Because it's so strange, but you know when something in a movie is really strange and you don't know why you like it, but you just really like it?
It's like they went for it and it worked.
And they did it. They moved their body or they said something in a way that didn't work.
Did not work.
I like that that's become a running joke.
It is, and I love that I've never seen it.
Yeah, but you know exactly.
But it's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's so funny.
What movie is it from?
It's from Contraband. It's Diego Luna with a roll of duct tape. Instead of putting on a hood, he wraps duct tape around his head because it looks cool as a mask. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
I love it. It's become a strong reference on the show.
It would be so painful getting that off your head.
It would like rip. Yeah, it's not practical. You better be dying in this robbery because that mask is never coming off.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I've seen 3 people now who have that as their fist pump.
The Hedwig dancing?
Yeah.
It's just like the high knees are amazing, and then he does a headstand, but you don't even see him doing it. You just see his legs.
Right.
It's such good comedy, and again, it's just like McAvoy. My God, man.
Yeah.
And not only that, okay, not only is it the talent, but again, as somebody you're a legit actor all the time, can you imagine being given a role like this where you're like, I'm going to spend a year of just on anything I want. anything I do, I'm gonna go all in and it's gonna work.
Like I mean, like I can't imagine what that phone call was like for James McAvoy, because regardless of what you think about M. Night Shyamalan, if his name is at the top of a trailer or the credits, that movie has exponentially more legitimacy than it would if it was a nobody. You know, like even if M. Night hasn't made great movies, if you hear M. Night's coming out with a new movie, everyone's ears kind of perk up. So to get that call being like, hey, James, we've got this role for you. You get to play like 20 different people.
I actually talked to tonight about this at Comic-Con.
I want to hear about it.
And he pitched him the role at a party at Comic-Con. He met him. He met him at a party at Comic-Con, and he met him, and like in that party was like, oh, I think this guy could do this.
Right.
I think it should be James McAvoy. That's how it happened. He met him at a party at Comic-Con for the first time and had a conversation, and that's where he decided that he wanted him to play this role in Split.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
God, it's just, yeah, it is. It's super cool, and also it just makes me like, just like, it's amazing. Right place at the right time. Brandon Hanna goes, my fist pump moment was me opening the other show, because that's basically what happened. You're like, remember on The Action Guys when I sang? All right, so my fist pump moment is, it's tough for it not to be David Dunn popping up at the end, because it was like, none of us saw the twist coming. None of us saw.
And the Unbreakable music sets in.
Yeah.
Which this time I only realized is what happened, because we just had rewatched Unbreakable. The first time I didn't realize that was the same music.
Yeah, I loved it, and watching it again last night, and I've gained like a new fondness for this entire trilogy after speaking with Spencer and like just, you know, Glass coming out. But I think it is the moment that I mentioned earlier in the show when she says Kevin Wendell Crumb, and then all of a sudden you get to see all the repressed personalities. The ones that like, you saw them all on the screen for a moment, and he put just as much work in those characters as he does in the ones you see throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Which I think is why I loved it so much, because it's like, you talk about what you're saying, like you get a whole year to work on like 10 different characters. Imagine if like several months of those characters were spent on ones that you see for like 30 seconds. Because that's what when they finally pop up in the movie, for me, I was like, oh my God, I want to see all of these people just as much as I've seen Kevin and Hedwig and Barry and Dennis, you know? So that again for me, and also, you know, like you said, since I'm an actor, just watching that, you're kind of just blown away. It really is fascinating.
As somebody who's really not an actor anymore, I find it like every bit as fascinating. I think just maybe it's because I had to go through that training at one point, so I remember I just remember how difficult it is to even free yourself up enough to play one character well, let alone like being able to switch between them like that.
Yeah, you know, and like people don't even know how hard it is just to be yourself on camera talking about movies. You know what I mean? So then try to be someone else on camera. It's crazy.
And those things that you do when you're trying to build a weird, unique character, there's so many moments that his characters have. Like I love when Hedwig's getting upset about her wanting to leave.
Right.
He's like, you thought it was a window so you could leave, etc.
Yeah.
Like that he's upset, but he still throws in the line, etc. And it has an extra layer because you know that he's upset and he's still saying this weird thing.
Right, because
he's a kid, and it's like the whole thing is so strange but so effective.
I know, and also when they like kind of lock him out of the room when they're trying to find the hole in the drywall and stuff, and he like starts calling them bitches and stuff, you're like, geez, there's like something like trailer trash, like you wouldn't say that ever, and I don't know, like the way that when it comes out of his mouth, he's like, "You stupid bitches" or whatever. You're just like, whoa! But it's so radically different than every single one of his characters. I don't know. I just absolutely love it.
What's the chat have to say?
Chat, they've got a lot of love for him, of course. Hedwig, I just ate a hot dog. A lot of fist pumps involve Hedwig. The first time in session when he starts jumping in and out of different personalities made him hungry for more, says Mitchell Bowker. When Casey found the beast just like devouring the girl in the closet, that part is gnarly.
Savage,
David Dunn's first appearance. Also, I also love a scene where the beast bends the bars and could go after Casey, but decides not to because they both have been hurt in their own ways. Kevin with his mom and Casey with her uncle. As weird as this is, I really liked the storyline with her uncle and her dad.
Yeah, it's just enough.
It's just enough. Yeah, and he says things like animals don't wear clothes, like just creepy and weird and just fucked up enough to where you hate him.
Yeah, I mean Knight lets you fill in the blanks here, which I think is really smart.
Yeah.
And he also, I like that in the car at the end, your uncle's here to pick you up, and she gives her that look, but they don't say anything. She just gives her that look, and you're like, oh, shit's gonna change. She went through something right now. She survived. Right. She survived some real shit, and this is not gonna be the same. You know, I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff. There's also, I mean, I just want to talk about each of the characters. I think maybe that's actually a thing we should do in a second.
Okay.
Is probably talk about them. But let's get into the next part of our show first, and if we have time, we'll kind of do that.
All right.
So we're gonna get into star profiles. We just talked about his career a little bit, but McAvoy does X-Men Apocalypse. He did not play Apocalypse.
He did
That
not.
was Oscar Isaac. Didn't we talk about that recently?
That's the one role that you got to pass on. He looks so ridiculous.
He really does, and like that's like one of those roles where you think about as an actor, you'd like look back on your life and be like, on one level you're like, well,
Of course I took it.
of course I took it. I was the main villain in an X-Men movie. On the other hand, it's like, what were they thinking?
Well, yeah, like, why do I look like that? You're supposed to be scary?
He's supposed to, like, in the comic books, he's like crazy, like metal looking, weird head shape. Like he's awesome looking.
I don't even remember what he looks like.
In the comic books, he's sweet. In the comic books, Apocalypse is always like awesome. He's like very mechanical looking.
Right.
But in this, it's terrible. He looks
Oh, yeah, he looks like that.
yeah. It's just
He looks like a Protoss.
in the comic books, he looks like a machine. His face is like a mask, like an Iron Man mask.
Right. Whereas this one, yeah. What happened? What happened?
I don't know. So
Anyway.
prior to X-Men Apocalypse, where McAvoy did not play Apocalypse, we had Victor Frankenstein in 2015, which is a movie that actually exists, by the way. That
yeah,
happened.
that's a real thing.
Some of you guys probably don't remember. I never saw it. In fact, I know that it hit theaters. I don't ever remember it happening.
There was just the two, right? There was Frankenstein
Yeah, you're
and
mixing it
this
up.
one.
You're
There
mixing
was
it
just the
up.
two, Aaron Eckhart and this one, right? And then
Yeah.
there was I actually really like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer or whatever, Vampire Hunter. That movie's sweet.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. at that
Why
time.
is this a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know, and I don't enjoy them.
But I mean, as bad as Victor Frankenstein apparently was, I Frankenstein was worse. So, and my favorite
Yeah.
part about I Frankenstein is that, like, because I like Aaron Eckhart, but I think he's like, he's not like a great actor.
I know he I think he had us all fooled for a moment.
He had a minute.
Yeah.
And I like him a lot. And if I met Aaron Eckhart, I would shake his hand and be
Oh,
like,
I love Aaron Eckhart.
yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
Like Nick Naylor and Thank You for Smoking.
Thank You for Smoking is
Great
his best,
character.
yes.
And he has a couple really cool movies. There's a movie called In the Company of Men from like the late 90s or early 2000s. That's like, and I think I've told you about this before. You'd like this movie. It's
What's it called?
super. I think it's called In the Company of Men.
Okay.
It's these two coworkers, Aaron Eckhart, who's like a total like dickbag, like hotshot, and his like, shorter, wider, balding, like kind of portly buddy that he works with, and this deaf girl starts working at the office, and they make like a bet of who can like get her affection.
Oh, you did tell me about this.
And in the end, it's like a joke, and the shorter guy falls in love with her, and Eckhart gets her, and she falls in love with Eckhart, but of course he's just an asshole.
Right.
It's like such a twisted movie.
But it's good?
It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a really good indie. But anyway, so Victor Frankenstein, the funny part was he got like super shredded for that movie, I remember. He went on like a really intense workout regimen.
yeah, I remember.
And it's like the worst movie ever made.
It's so bad.
So no one saw it. Or
I don't think I've ever finished it. I've definitely turned it on a handful of times.
You
late
have?
at night while intoxicated.
Are you sure that's not a fever dream?
I just dream about it. Okay, so on the other side of it, we have Anna Taylor-Joy, who has done Barry in 2016, which I don't know of.
Can you double check that it's not Anya Taylor-Joy?
I feel like it is.
I think it is.
Anya.
Yeah, it is Anya.
Yeah,
I like
thought so.
even wanted to say Anya just now. Anya Taylor-Joy, Barry in 2016, which I don't know what it is. Morgan in 2016, which I also don't know what it is. And then The Witch in 2015, which I saw in theaters. Super weird.
Yeah, I didn't ever see The Witch. I don't know what Morgan or Barry is. I know she's an actress who's like sort of having a moment. Thoroughbreds was a well-liked indie from last year
Yeah.
that I really liked. She's really good in it.
It feels like she is having her moment. It feels like she's going to keep having one. I think she's got a couple things lined up. I really like her.
New Mutants is like it was supposed to come out, and then like I've heard there's a possibility that movie's never going to come out.
I've heard about that as well, which I think is weird because there was a lot of people that were really excited about that.
Yeah, but apparently it's terrible. And then she's also in Glass, obviously. Mm-hmm. But she's an actress who I think it seems like there's a lot of promise. It's a little weird. I mean, tell me if you relate to me on this at all.
Okay.
It's a little weird getting older, and so people who I remember like at one point in my life were like young up and coming actresses. Take like Jennifer Lawrence. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Lawrence is like a well-established vet now. She's been acting for like in the spotlight for 10 years.
Yeah.
And she's not like new, young, and up and coming anymore. And you look at like the actresses in this movie: Anya Taylor-Joy, Haley Lou Richardson, Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah.
These are the young actresses.
Wait, Haley Steinfeld? Oh, I thought you were saying Haley Steinfeld was in this.
No.
Yeah.
Olivia the Cook.
Olivia Cook. Yep.
Like, they're all, like, these are the actresses that are, like, 22, 23, 24, 25, who are, like, making names for themselves right now. And it's so interesting because, like, we're old.
Yeah, we are. She's got 10 things in production right now, and she was born in 96, so she's 22.
Yeah.
We're about to turn 31.
She's like a legit up and comer, and like it's so interesting watching these careers now because we've been covering movies professionally for years and gigantic movie fans our whole lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just is Anya Taylor-Joy, man. She's gonna have a big career. I think
She is. Her and Haley Steinfeld for sure.
Yeah, I think
she's so good.
Haley Lou too is having a big moment right now. She just had a movie open called 5 Feet Apart with Cole Sprouse.
I've heard is amazing.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I was actually just looking at an Instagram story. It's just her crying for like 6 of her stories saying how incredible that movie is.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me that movie is just Haley Lou crying for 6 minutes.
No. All right, so moving on to production development. Do we want to talk about who else we think could have played Kevin Wendell Crumb right now?
I think because we'll answer the question in a second, maybe.
Okay.
You know, we usually save AMA question to the end. We have some good ones, though.
Yeah. So we'll just go on to M. Night really quickly. I mean, you guys all know him. We've covered him a lot recently with Glass and with, Unbreakable. It's, Sixth Sense is kind of what put him on the map. Then he did Unbreakable in 2000, Signs in 2002, and these were all massive, massive films. He received a nomination for Best Director after Sixth Sense, although he did not win. Haley also got a nomination for Best Supporting in 99, yep. After that, he did a bunch of poorly received movies. The Village, which I love. Marissa, what do you think of The Village?
I actually haven't seen it.
God damn it.
Nor have I.
God damn it. Is it on your list?
The Village?
Yeah.
100 movies that when people say, you haven't seen that movie?
Yeah.
The Village.
Yes.
No.
You haven't seen that movie? Okay, Signs, blah, blah, blah. So then he goes on his run of bad movies, which is The Village, which I think should not be in there. Lady in the Water, 2006. The Happening, 2008. Airbender, The Last Airbender, 2010. After Earth in 2013. The Visit in 2015, which I heard was kind of like good enough. And then 2016, he does Split. So legitimately took a massive, massive break.
As well known as being a writer, as a director, I think the most interesting thing about M. Night to me, and this will lead in here, guys, we're doing a whole show this week on the Action Guys, top Hollywood comebacks of all time. And we're going to kind of tease that right now with a segment we're doing about greatest director comebacks of all time.
Yeah.
But I think starting with him and just kind of quantifying why we look at this as a director comeback, it's not that he was so unsuccessful that he wasn't making big movies. I mean, even After Earth in 2013 is a big movie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what happens to you when you're a guy that writes and directs your own movies, and you start to make movies like Lady in the Water and The Happening, by the time he made After Earth, it's a trivia question to know that M. Night directed that movie. That's
100%.
not an M. Night movie.
No.
That's a bad sci-fi movie that was not well made, not well received, with a big actor that nobody remembers. And it's directed by a guy who was originally famous for writing and directing brilliant films.
Yes.
When that happens to you, you have officially fallen off. So, like,
and if you just look at this list, the fact that, okay, so I argue that The Village is good.
Yeah.
Like, I like it. But 80% of people don't. So then 2002 is when he did Signs.
Yep.
The next legitimate film that he makes that people actually went out, I mean, everyone went out and still sees his movies, but actually like said was good enough was The Visit 13 years later. And arguably it's really, Split
it's
14 years later.
It's only relevant because Split was good.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So 14 years he takes this massive break. So we've got this list, again, like Ben said, to tease our episode of The Action Guys. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the greatest directorial comebacks in history.
Yeah, well, we'll throw a couple out here. I think the first one that jumps to mind for me is Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And this is a really interesting one because there's not that many directors that you can point to, and it's the same kind of thing, right? Like you talk about M. Night, it's not like he made a bunch of movies that didn't get advertised and weren't released in theaters. When you're a huge famous director, your movies still get promoted.
Absolutely.
I mean, in this day and age, it's a little different because studios don't want to spend money on theatrical releases if they can avoid it. But Clint Eastwood, he directed a bunch of westerns in the 80s, and they were fine. He made a bunch of movies that were fine.
Yep.
They were above average. 92, he wins Best Director and Best Picture for Unforgiven. It's a big movie. It's a huge deal. People expect that Clint Eastwood is going to follow that up with something great.
Right.
His 90s is like Perfect World, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, True Crime, Absolute Power, Blood Work. Like, it's a bunch of...
They're all bad. I mean, they're all, like, mediocre. I mean, like, average at best.
They're all like, yeah, they're page turners, basically. Like, they're not good. And he made a ton of these in a row. It wasn't until 2003 with Mystic River, 11 years after winning Best Picture, that he made a movie that really brought him back into significance as somebody who you should see his movies. Because he goes, like, Mystic River in 03, Best Picture for $1 Million Baby in 04. Then he does Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. He does...
I mean, he legitimately could have won Best Picture 3 out of those 4 years.
Gran Torino in 2008 or something like that.
Because
like,
I remember people loved Letters to Iwo Jima.
Yeah, it's good.
Was it? I don't remember
fine.
it that well. Yeah.
Neither of those movies.
Mystic River, I love.
Mystic River's amazing.
Should have won Best Picture.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, yeah, obviously $1 Million Baby. So that's a great one. I think it's really interesting because, you know, I really like what Clint Eastwood has kind of done in the later part of his career. I didn't really watch a lot of the stuff he directed early on.
The Westerns or that 90s
the Westerns.
stuff?
I did watch the 90s stuff, like some of the 90s stuff. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of Unforgiven. I don't think it's as good as most people do. Maybe it's just dated, but I like it.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot.
So I think the first person on my list is a person that's like near and dear to my heart. It's Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
Because I loved absolutely. I mean, I think every person our age, every guy our age at least, loved Lock, Stock, and Snatch.
Yeah.
They were just so cool. Like,
yeah.
the coolest movies at the time, you know?
I think people our age didn't see Lock, Stock. They saw Snatch, and maybe they went back and watched Lock,
that's what
Stock.
I mean. Yeah. And so, and then he goes on this run of like Rock and Rolla and Revolver and
Yeah, he does Rock and Roll and Revolver in there. He does that movie Swept Away, I think it's called, with Madonna.
right.
So he does those two early ones.
Wife.
Yeah, Swept Away, Rock and Roll. There's Revolver, and there's one other I think there's one other bad one in there.
There's one more that was just kind of a miss, but then you get Sherlock Holmes, which honestly we need to cover the first Sherlock Holmes on this show.
I think we're going to.
We will. I love that.
We gotta
movie.
have Irwin on here for it.
Oh yeah, he produced it.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think it's so awesome, and Downey's just perfect, and him and Jude Law are great together, and all those cool, fun like camera tricks that Guy Ritchie's kind of known for in his stylization is used perfectly.
Yeah.
In that film.
I agree.
So yeah, that's the next one on my list, and I think he's back in the light. He's not definitely like in the limelight, but I think he's like
King Arthur, anyone?
yeah, I know.
Speaking of King Arthur, I'm going to go ahead and jump out and say, I want to use somebody better than this. No, I'll say it. Antoine Fuqua. I love Antoine Fuqua.
Is it just Scarface and then
What?
is it just Scarface and then
Scarface?
Training Day? I mean, not Scarface. That's De Palma.
Yeah. No, Fuqua, I can explain. I can explain myself.
Yeah. What are you doing? I'm so curious.
So he does Training Day,
You do Carrie.
which is no, that's
Is that
also
also
De
De
Palma.
Palma? Yeah.
He does Training Day, and that's a big movie in 01, and everybody pays attention to it. And then really, it's his next like few years are all kind of bombs. Like he does Tears of the Sun,
Right.
and then he does King Arthur,
Love Tears of the Sun.
and those are both huge bombs. So, and then I believe after King Arthur, his next movie is Shooter, which is fine. Like Shooter's a
Danny Glover's a motherfucker. That's the only thing I remember from that movie.
bubbly swagger. I love Shooter. I'm a big fan of that movie.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's not good. It's like a very,
God, it's horrible.
very trashy action movie.
Yes.
and I also don't think Training Day is particularly good. So
It's really not.
but I think it's fair to say that Antoine Fuqua had a comeback in the latter part of his career because he did make The Equalizer, which was very successful and people liked it a lot, and he did make Southpaw, which like got a lot of attention as a legitimate movie.
And he made Magnificent Seven, which we both liked.
He liked Mag 7, and then he made Equalizer 2. I think the back half of his career has been a lot more successful than that front half.
Well,
Like Tears of the Sun and King Arthur back to back is pretty bad.
It's really bad. And it's also just, it's one of those things where like the audiences start to know what to expect out of Fuqua. And I think he started to kind of own what genre he really directs.
I agree.
Next, I'm going to go with Wes Craven.
that's a cool one.
Yeah, so like as a lot of you guys know, I'm a big horror fan, even though I haven't been watching as much of them lately. Really, really one of the most iconic, famous horror movie directors of all time because of Nightmare on Elm Street. But then he kind of has a rough like 90s. It's not like the greatest, or like late 80s, early 90s. And then he does Scream, which is just, you know,
Scream is
what really
sweet.
else is there to say about Scream?
I just watched it last year for the first time.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It like still holds up. One of my favorite questions of all time that was a miss from Riley was like, what movie has these characters? And it was like Sally and Dave and Ghostface and something else.
Yeah.
And I just remember like all of us, there was like a handful of us that were like super stumped by it, and then he got it wrong.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't believe it because of Ghostface. Like that is the most like on the nose thing, but you just don't even think about it. So I just love that because, you know, as Jordan Peele has shown us, horror is a very, very hard, you know, genre to own and do perfectly.
Yeah.
Wes Craven's one of the icons, one of the staples, one of the founding fathers of it, and even he struggled a lot in his career.
Yeah.
I don't think he really came back, but Scream was a comeback for him.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that'll kind of tease the segment, guys. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as well as some actor comebacks, actress comebacks on the Action Guys. Make sure to tune into that this Friday. It drops at 3 o'clock on the Collider podcast feed, the Movie Talk feed, and then full episodes you can get actually the same day on video, the full shows, patreon.com/teamaction. And then we just put them up publicly for everybody the next Tuesday if you want to wait and watch them then. But you can download them day of for free.
I'm actually going to plug something really quickly because Kyle Ma is in the chat. Kyle Ma is the winner of our weekly Instagram challenge that we're going to do, and we're actually going to start. We're going to do a little shift here, a little left turn on the audience. I don't even know if I've even spoken to you about this.
Whoa!
AMA question is something that we used to post in the Facebook groups and on our Twitter every single week. We get about 20, 30 questions sometimes. Sometimes we only get 5 to 10, whatever. We are now going to allot it to one place and one place only. We're going to be holding a challenge once a week at a certain time. We'll let you guys know what that is, but for now, just follow Action Industries on Instagram. This week, Kyle Ma won the challenge, which was, which of the movies that we've covered have we have directors on the show for, and I believe he responded with Gavin O'Connor. So,
and Rob Cohen.
Rob Cohen.
Those were the two.
Those are the two.
Yeah, the answers.
Yeah, so guys, make sure to follow us on Instagram if you want your question answered live on air. Kyle says, I'm Kyle Ma, huge fan of the show. AMA question. James McAvoy showcased incredible range in his performance as Kevin with multiple distinct traits for each character. What other actors or actresses could take on the role like this one and successfully pull off all personalities? My initial thoughts are Christian Bale and Vera Farmiga, with Bale's work on The Prestige and his take on Bruce Wayne with about 3 different identities, and with Farmiga's work on Bates Motel playing some very distinct versions of Norma Bates. Those are my choices. Also, if you could incorporate Cage versus Cruise, that would be awesome. Could you imagine Cage in this role? Keep up the great work, Kyle Ma.
Well, Kyle, interestingly enough, my initial answer that I really would like to give is Cage. That's who I think could pull off this role. I mean, you're joking, but like we know what Cage is capable of.
Kevin Wendell Crumb.
You know,
I'm Kevin Wendell Crumb.
Yeah.
I'm Castor Troy.
Wrong movie, Dick. Nick Cage would own this role. He would be fantastic in this role. Like and obviously being the Beast, I would love to the movie wouldn't have enough budget for him to take it seriously enough to get in shape. So he would like be the Beast, but like not in particularly good shape.
They'd like light him like they did Marlon Brando in Apocalypse.
Yeah. Or it's just bad CGI and it's clearly just not his body.
It's just his head.
That'd be sweet too. But Nick Cage, I think in this role would be fantastic. I mean, we're joking, but you're also right. I think about Christian Bale. I don't know. I have never watched Vera Farmiga in Bates Motel. The stuff I know her from mostly is The Departed and Up in the Air and The Conjuring, I think.
Yeah, I think she's a very interesting choice. I'd like to see her do something like that. I actually really liked the first 2 seasons of Bates Motel.
Oh, you've watched them?
I watched them and I kind of just fell off. Bale, I think I honestly think Bale is maybe the greatest character actor alive right now.
He's so good.
He's just so good. D-Day Lewis kind of almost retired. For me, I'm gonna have to go with our dear old boy on the show with Recast, which is Fassbender.
Yeah, he'd be so
I think he would be so good in this, but I think that's almost too easy. That was one of the reasons I didn't want to say it, so I'll just use him as like Fassbender. I would love to see Angelina Jolie do this.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I know it just seems crazy enough, right?
She hasn't pushed herself for a role in a while.
And she's so talented. Like she actually is a good actress. So I think that would be really sweet to see her do that.
My actress I'd go with here would be Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore.
She can do anything in my mind.
Yeah, she's probably my favorite actress today.
I think why she's gonna just be the next Meryl Streep. She needs to be, I think.
She's like what, 50 maybe? Right?
Yeah, which also seems like it's too late almost. But then Meryl Streep is just like
70
over the last 20 years. Yeah, it's just been insane.
I watched The Devil Wears Prada this week. For the first time. I'm not just stating that because I watched it again.
And you gave it a glowing review.
It's really good. It's a really, really good movie. Surprised there's no sequel. What are some of the iconic Kevin Wendell Crumb lines? What are your favorite lines?
What are my favorite lines? I don't even know what my favorite lines are. I think what I wrote down as my actual favorite line is I liked the broken or the more evolved.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
It's a good line, yeah.
And then it actually was the line that you said. I wrote it. Oh, they're both Hedwig lines. Did you think it was real, Wendo? So you could leave, etc.
Yeah.
And then the other one was she goes, so you're not the guy that brought us here? No. And you're not the lady? What are you, blind? I love that line because it's like, it's you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's so I think that are you blind? Were you blonde?
Cage would be so good. Cage would be amazing. I love we haven't talked about this at all, but I love the weirdness of Dennis's character as kind of being a pedophile, but also never really going full pedo.
Well, right, because he likes. They mention that he likes to watch young girls dance naked, right?
Yeah. So he's he's weird and gross and creepy, but while you get the beast eating someone, you never see Dennis even he's uncomfortably asks them to take their shirt off because it's dirty because he's OCD. It's such a weird character, but I think it's such an effective villain character.
Well, because it's how easy is it to just be a creepy dude who preys on women?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's got a lot of. You would get a lot of the Matchstick Men, Nick Cage in that character.
Yeah.
The OCD part.
I love that movie.
Your shirt's filthy. Take it off.
Take it off.
He was so gross.
I would love that. So Denuzzo here wrote, he wrote, recast for Kevin, Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, yes.
Recast for Casey, Millie Bobby Brown. I love it. I think those are both absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good.
Gosh, what are we doing on time here? Marissa, how are we doing on time? How much more time do we actually have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, so I am going to breeze through production. Not production development, but critical and box office. This was a very cheap film to make, almost shockingly cheap at $9 million. You'd think that most of that had to go towards. You'd think it would just have to mainly go towards James McAvoy and then honestly just set design.
I think the majority of it has to. I don't think he got paid very much for this movie.
Yeah, he probably just for him, he might have looked at it the same way that we're talking about, but finally maybe people will take me seriously.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, maybe, probably $1 million would have to go to McAvoy, you'd think.
You would think so.
Anya Tojo wasn't really famous yet.
50,000, 20,000, whatever.
None of the other actors in this movie are real. They're all up and comers.
Yeah, other than David Dunn. I could see Willis getting 20 or 50 for that.
Probably more.
Or even 150, 200. Yeah.
I don't know. I just at this point don't know how I feel about Bruce Willis as an actor anymore.
I don't either. I really don't either. And I've just heard the worst things about him as a person.
Me too.
Yeah.
So many times. So unfortunate because he was he's one of our guys.
I know. He's one of the guys we grew up on. He's one of the staples of action genre. Action genre.
He was such a movie star, and it just when I see him now, he just I don't know, man. It's weird. It's he's got this pride of and inability to he has to take himself so seriously, and it makes him unappealing.
And he started this weird new production company for the Netflix. Have you seen all that? All the straight to video things?
No.
He they're all shitty action movies that he's either the bad guy or the old guy in. And the way that it works is he self-finances them with his production company. He'll come in and shoot all of his scenes for the whole movie in a day.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this.
Yeah. And then he'll leave, and then they have to do the rest of the movie without him there. And they're just garbage.
Right. Yeah,
I don't remember which one it was that I watched on Netflix the other day, but I just watched it. I was like, what the fuck are you doing in here, man?
If you look at, if you do yourself a favor, guys, I think we've talked about this before, but go ahead and pull up Bruce Willis's IMDb, and prior to Glass, look at his last 12 credits as an actor, and you will be blown away by the number of them you've actually seen. It's insane. It's like Marauders, Once Upon a Time in Venice. Some people actually saw Death Wish, but oh god, there's so many on there that are just you've never heard of this movie. That new one that just came out with Shaq in it, Reprisal.
Right. They're just all bad.
The Prince with John Cusack. They're
that's the one that I watched.
Yeah.
That's the one that I turned on. It was so Anyway, so this cost $9 million to make. It was released on January 20th of 2017, which is really weird. It says 2016 on IMDb.
It's a festival movie, I think.
Oh, okay, that's what it must. Even though it didn't even have limited release on box office, so its wide release was January 20th, 2017. $138 million domestic, 140 worldwide, for a grand total of $278 million. 30 times its investment on a return.
Pretty strong.
Yeah, incredible. 7.3 on IMDb. 77% on the tomato meter, 79 by the audience. Makes sense there. Richard Eric Jarvie is in charge of running our Instagram. And Richard, I know you're probably in the chat. Can you give us a general window of the day and the time that you post the challenge on Instagram, just so I can shout that out really quickly. Once again, Kyle Ma was the winner this week. Kyle, thank you so much for following us and for submitting such a great question.
So before we announce that, we'll wait for Richard to give us the response. There are 3 action movie categories, Drew. Yes, totally ridiculous, totally legitimate, and ridiculously legitimate. Ridiculous movies are like Face Off, Con Air, Demolition Man. They're really silly. You kind of laugh all the way, but they're great. We love them. Totally legitimate movies are going to be movies like The Fugitive, movies like Lone Survivor or Gladiator, or even a movie like Get Out, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I can't remember what we rated that one. And then ridiculous legitimate's the middle category. That's like a lot of the classic action movies that we love. The Rock or Point Break or Predator. There's some level of realism to them, but they're a little silly, but they're anchored by something really special that makes that movie feel like it's pretty legitimate. What do you think?
It's interesting, right? Because we've had this happen a lot. To where like the silly moments where you laugh are so intentional and they're so on the nose. Like that moment of the Kanye dancing thing seems ridiculously legitimate, but it's executed so well. I think this movie for me is just, God. You know what? I got to go ridiculously legit.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, there's just too many things throughout that you just can't.
The one thing about it is like there's a level of suspension of disbelief with this movie that when I watch it, like the character of the Beast and that whole entire idea that he's like the Beast is the only part of it that like loses me at parts,
right?
Which is cool and it works, and I'm willing to buy in. But I don't watch this movie and just be like, I'm going to recommend this to somebody, and they'll be unprepared, watch this, and not find it weird. 50% of the people I recommend this to would find it weird because it is weird.
It is weird, and honestly, like after reviewing rewatching it, it's good, but it's not like amazing.
No, it's really solid. Like I like this movie a lot. It's mostly just an incredible performance by McAvoy. So there's just one last thing to do. Talk about the show this week, and it's called The Pitch.
There it is.
Nice.
I like that. I like what you've added in there. It's good. It looks like people mostly agree with us, although Liam Crowley here says totally ridiculous once the third act hits. You can't deny it. Very interesting there.
That's Liam Crowley. Big shout out. He's our PR coordinator in Action Industries.
Oh, and he actually has a guest booked for us for next week.
He does. The guest that is booked next week is Janine the Machine, a friend of ours from the movie trivia Schmodown world, originally a big fan of the Action brand. She's an incredible designer. She makes wonderful, wonderful work. You guys have seen probably a ton of her shirts. She's done shirts of us and tons of other people. And
she's incredible.
She's really talented. And she's going to be coming on the show next week to cover Batman Returns.
Such a cool... I'm like really excited to cover this.
Have we not covered Batman 89? Did that not happen?
No, and I can't remember exactly why we decided to skip to Returns. Was it something to do with... Oh, it was DeVito and Dumbo. That's why.
Yes. I guess
and Tim Burton.
And
he did both
Janine
of them.
has wanted to cover this movie, I think is the other reason. But we're doing Batman Returns next week. So, yeah, that's the movie we're covering. Big shout out to the generals in the Action Army. I've got Andrew Hayes, Paul DeNuso, Billy Belford,
nice,
John Getz, and John Patterson.
Generals, we salute you.
We salute you always. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Marissa, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys same time, same place next week for Batman Returns. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.